Hi, this is Jeremy Benson. I run the website for GrandRiverConference.com. I run the Twitter, the Facebook, a blog podcast for the Grand River Conference, Instagram, and I am starting a new segment this week. It's This Week in the GRC. And this will be something that I'll be posting on YouTube every week. I'll be sharing it on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And it's something that I am planning to do during the school year, talk about what has been happening in the GRC, preview some of the things that are upcoming in the GRC. And so, one of the things I'm going to be talking about right now is what is going on this week. We have the softball championship coming up, and it's going to be polo at North Andrew. So I want to show you what's going on, not just with polo and North Andrew, but with all of the softball coming up this week. As you know, the championship game is part of the crossover series. And so what happens there is the number one teams match up, and that's the championship game. But then the number two teams match up against each other, number three, and so on. And so I want to go through how that works. And so first, I'm going to share the conference standings with you. So this is uh, this is the conference champions. As you see in the conference standings, as you see in the East, Polo is the East Division champion. South Harrison is second at 6-1. Gallatin is third. Trenton fourth. Princeton fifth. The sixth, seventh, and eighth positions have not been decided yet because Putnam County and Maysville still have one game to play against each other. And I'm going to go through. In my blog, I outlined that, and I'm going to go through that entry there in a little bit. On the west side, there's only 6 teams in the west. Plattsburgh did not play this year in the conference because they co-opted with Winston and did not have enough players for a team of their own. And St. Joseph Christian does not have a softball team. So there's only 6 in the West Division. North Andrew finished number 1. King City number 2. Worth County, North Harrison, and Albany, they tied at 2 and 3. So I'm going to go through the tiebreaker for that in just a minute. And then Stanberry finished at number 6 at 0 and 5. So here is the scenarios for the division games. One of the things, if you go back to the standings, you'll notice, as I said, there's 6 teams in the West, 8 teams in the East. So the last 2 teams in the East, they will play each other so that both of those teams still get a game for that crossover. And so that's the way they'll play. So there's no remaining games in the West; those are finished. There's one remaining game in the East. That's Maysville and Putnam County. As I said, North Andrew will host Polo for the GRC Championship. At the time when I wrote this, Polo was ranked number 1 in Class 1. North Andrew was ranked number 2. There has been new rankings that have come out. North Andrew is expected to drop from number 2, but Polo is expected to be ranked number 1. I have not seen the new Class 1 rankings. I know others have, but I've heard they're going to be posted on their website tomorrow. So here's the scenarios for the West. As I said, North Andrews 1, King City 2, and then there was a 3-way tiebreaker for 3, 4, and 5. North Andrew got the 3 spot, Worth County the 4, and Albany 5. And the way that tiebreaker was broken is that the games between the 3 schools, it was the fewest runs allowed in games played among the 3 teams. So Worth County defeated North Harrison 5-3. Albany defeated Worth County 3-2. That was an 11-inning game, a pretty good game between the 2 teams. And then North Harrison beat Albany 12-0. This was really the one that I would say decided the tiebreaker because North Harrison shut out Albany, and Albany allowed a lot of runs in that game. So the total runs allowed were North Harrison allowed 5, Worth County allowed 6, and Albany allowed 14, which 12 of them were in that North Harrison game. And so because of that, North Harrison won the tiebreaker between the 3 teams. Worth County finished second in the tiebreaker, and Albany finished third. So this is the final standings: North Andrew, King City, North Harrison, Worth County, Albany, and Stanberry. In the East, if you go back to the standings, you'll see it was pretty straightforward for the first 5 teams: Polo, South Harrison, Gallatin, Trenton, and Princeton. And so they play the first 5 in the West, and the games are at the West sites this year. So as we mentioned before, Polo will play at North Andrew, South Harrison will play at King City, Gallatin will play at North Harrison, Trenton will play at Worth County, and Princeton will play at Albany. All these games are on Thursday. The number 6 team will play at Stanberry, and the number 7 team in the East will host the GRC number 8 team. So there's one game will still decide who's number 6, 7, and 8 in the East. If Putnam County defeats Maysville, Putnam County will finish number 6, and they will play at Stanberry, and then Milan will be 7, and Maysville will be 8, and then Maysville will play at Milan under that scenario. If Maysville defeats Putnam County, then what happens is Maysville, Milan, and Putnam County will all finish in a 3-way tie, and then we'll have to do the same scenario that we did in the West. And there's a lot of different scenarios. There's even one scenario where all 3 will have the same number of runs allowed. I can't remember what that score is, but then they would have to do a coin flip if that's the case. The coin flip would basically determine who plays at Stanberry and then who else plays, and then who gets the home field for that. But hopefully we will not have that situation and will be determined by the actual scores and not a coin flip. So that is the scenarios for the crossover games for this upcoming Thursday. The other games that will be played in softball tomorrow night, Monday night, we'll have Putnam County at Albany, a cross division game, Lawson at Gallatin, East Harrison at North Harrison, another cross division game between South Harrison at Stanberry and Lathrop at Trenton. On Tuesday, we'll have some more cross division games, Albany at Gallatin, King City at Polo. That Maysville at Putnam County game that I mentioned, the last divisional conference game, will be played. Milan at North Harrison, another cross division game. Savannah will be at North Andrew, Worth County at Princeton, and then Stanberry at Trenton. The Stanberry-Trenton game is a added game to the schedule. Stanberry was originally supposed to play Maysville, but because Maysville had to have the makeup game with Putnam County, Stanberry scheduled that game with Trenton. And then you'll see this is listing the games for Thursday that I already went through: Princeton at Albany, Gallatin at North Harrison, South Harrison at King City, Polo at North Andrew, and Trenton at Worth County. Right now, the other teams, Maysville, Milan, Putnam, and Stanberry, are listed as the possible teams they could play. Stanberry will host. The other ones, where they will play, will be determined by the final standings, as I mentioned before. And then there's some teams that will be playing in tournaments. On Saturday, Gallatin's going to be at the Pirate Invitational in Norburn. King City and I believe Stanberry, if you go down here a little bit, will be at the Tiger Softball Tournament. That will be played in Plattsburgh. Milan's going to be at the La Plata Softball Tournament. North Andrew's going to be at the Mid-Buchanan Tournament. South Harrison's also going to be there. That one I already have a bracket, and I know North Andrew is in the Mid-Buchanan DeKalb pool. South Harrison's in the Benton and Lathrop pool. There's 12 teams in that tournament, so they're playing a pool, and then they'll play a bracket after that. Trenton's also in the La Plata tournament where Milan's at, and then Putnam County is in Centralia Invitational. So those are the softball games coming up this week. A busy week at softball. As I said, the big event, though, is the championship game, Polo at North Andrew. Just a little bit more about Polo North Andrew. Polo will be going for their second conference championship. They won it in 2014. This will be North Andrews. If they win it, it would be their first. They were in the championship game last year, lost to South Harrison, so they're going for their first. Polo, as I said, finished 7-0 in their division. North Andrew 5-0 in their division. So I'm going to switch to football. Football, the scores that we had this past week. In the 11-man side, Gallatin won 35-12 over Maysville. Putnam County 40-16 over Princeton. South Harrison 16-8 over Polo. That was South Harrison's first win of the season. Trenton 21-7 over Milan. That was a game I was at, and I had a podcast and a blog entry, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. The big game on the 8-man side was Albany beating Platte Valley. It was the second straight week that Albany defeated the number 2 team in the state, and both times it was a 36-34 win for Albany over the number 2 team in the state. So we'll see what the rankings are tomorrow. North Andrew defeated St. Joe Christian 86-30. North Andrew was ranked number 1 in the state. Albany was ranked number 4 in the state. I would expect Albany to either be number 2 or number 3 in the state tomorrow. There's some speculating they could be number 1, but I would expect North Andrew to stay at number 1. Albany could be number 2 or 3 in the state. Stanberry defeated Pattonsburg 84-48. Worth County over King City 42-8, and and the rest of those were scores from last week. So those were the scores from Friday night for football, and we'll take a look at the standings right now. On the 11-man side, you see Gallatin and Trenton are both sitting at 3-0 in the conference, 5-0 overall. So, if they can stay on this path, they will be facing each other on week 8 with 7-0 records, 5-0 in the conference. But they have other teams that right now are trying to knock them off. Sitting at 2-1 in the conference are Putnam County and Maysville. 1-2 is Milan and South Harrison, and 0-3 is Polo and Princeton. On the 8-man side, North Andrew and Albany are the top 2 teams, and they are scheduled to play each other week 7 of the season. So that is the week that they are playing towards right now. Though Worth County is definitely looking to knock off North Andrew next week. Who Albany knocked off the week before, and then Albany's going to have a game against King City. North Andrew still has to play. North Andrew still has to play Stanberry. Actually, I believe North Andrew plays Stanberry next week, and then plays Worth County week 8. I might have that wrong. If we look at North Andrew's schedule here, we'll have that. Yes, North Andrew's Worth County week 8, Stanberry next week. So there's still a lot of big games there, but Worth County is sitting there with 1 loss to Albany, and then King City, Stanberry both have 2 losses. But the top of this conference is very good, and it's very difficult to go through this conference. But so there's still a lot of tough games left. Pattonsburg and St. Joe Christian are yet to win a conference game. St. Joe Christian is sitting at 0-5 overall in the conference. Pattonsburg has 1 win. St. Joe Christian 0-5 overall with 0-3 in the conference. So that's where we're at football. The upcoming games in football, on the 8-man side, Albany will be at St. Joe Christian. King City will be at Rockport. Stanberry at North Andrew. Rich Hill at Pattonsburg. Knox County at Worth County. On the 11-man, Gallatin at Milan. Princeton at Maysville. Trenton at Polo. And South Harrison at Putnam County. I'm going to be at the Princeton-Maysville game next week, so look for coverage on that, which will include a podcast and a blog entry. So those are some of the things that have been happening in the GRC and upcoming this week. All this information that I'm sharing with you here is on the Grand River Conference website, and I did share some information with the blog. And if you want to go to the blog, you can, from the Grand River Conference website, you can go here over to social media to GRC blog, or also have a podcast, GRC podcast. But I want to go through and show you some of the things that are on the blog this week. I already showed you the GRC crossover scenario, so that's something, if you want to go back and read that, you can see what games are going to be played there. One of the other things I mentioned, I was at the Trenton Milan game, and so I put together a recap of that game, and as part of that recap, you can listen to post-game of Trenton Milan, and I also posted a video of the player introductions from Trenton. One of the things that I'm planning to do as I go to the game each week is I'm going to take video. My videos that I had of some of my early games were not that long. They were probably brief, but I'm going to try to do a more lengthy video introduction of the players and post those along with the recap of the games. And so that's one of the things. And then in addition, unofficial stats here for the games. Now, these are ones that I kept myself, so these are definitely unofficial. The other thing that I've been doing every week is I've been doing a power poll. And this is basically my view, my opinion of where the teams stand in the conference. I did start out with the coaches poll as a base to start it, and then have been going up and down. Obviously, you may disagree, and that's fine. And I do welcome your view on that. But as you see in the 11-man power poll, right now I have Gallatin at 1, Trenton at 2. Those are the two 5-0 teams and 3-0 in the conference. And then Putnam, Maysville, the two 2-1 teams, Milan, South Harrison, and then Polo and Trenton. On the 8-man side, right now I have North Andrew, Albany, Worth County, King City, Stanberry, Pattonsburg, and St. Joe Christian. So those are the blogs, and then the podcast you can also get to on the GRC website, grandriverconference.com, by going to GRC podcast. And you can listen to the podcast. There's several places. If you have a phone, you can download one of these apps. You can download Amazon Music app, the Apple podcast. If you have an iPhone, you can download that app. The Google Podcast, especially if you have an Android, you can download that app, or Spotify, and just search for Grand River Conference on that, and you can listen to the podcast. I also post links to them on Facebook and Twitter after I do the podcast. A couple of podcasts I had last week, I mentioned I had the Trenton Milan post game. I have it on the blog for the Trenton Milan recap in here, so I post in here so you can listen to it there, but you can also listen to it in whatever app you want. I also had a preview of Platte Valley Albany game last week where I had some interviews before the game. You can hear what the predictions were and see how well they did on that. But you'll see back here all of the podcasts that I had done since I started the podcast, all the way back to last basketball year when I started in March, when Stanberry and Putnam County made their run to the state. That's when I started the podcast. But I've been having more extensive coverage of football, and there's some softball and volleyball podcasts on there too. So that's where you can find all of the podcasts, all of the blog information. One other thing I do want to share with you, if you're a fan of a certain school and you want to know, okay, have I written a blog or a podcast of someone? So I'll just give you an example of, Polo is one that they're getting ready to play this week in the championship. So each team has a page here, and I have listed all of their coaches here, all of their schedules. But this is where I have their podcasts and their blogs, and so every blog or podcast that is included that team, or has mentioned that team, or basically has included them in any way, I have a link to that blog or podcast. So if you're a fan of one team, so I mentioned Polo here. I can bring up some others. I know, like Trenton Milan, I had this game. So the Trenton win over Milan, the post game from the podcast for that, the power poll that I posted, everything that's Trenton related, and all of their blog and podcasts. So whoever your favorite GRC team is, you can go to that page, and it's all of their podcasts and blogs filtered for that team. I also have a list of all of their upcoming varsity games, and then links to the site where they're going to be live streaming their games, their school website, Facebook page, Twitter page, and Misha homepage. So there's a lot of information on here. I'll be sharing more of it as we go along, but that is information about the website, but also information about what is coming up this week in the GRC. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to share them. I'll be sharing this on Twitter, sharing this on Facebook and Instagram, sharing it on YouTube. So comment on any of those platforms, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But this is something that I'll plan to do each week. Try to do it every Sunday night based on my schedule, but I'll be sharing information about what's going on in the GRC each week. So this is Jeremy Benson, and good luck to all the GRC teams this week.